Hi everyone, I'm Mandy from Emptiness Designs, and in this video we're going to be making just a nice simple card, but I'm really excited because this is one of the brand new stamps to my collection. So this is what I'm going to be using in the video today. So this is the beginning of November, so they've only just been released, so I should clarify, the beginning of November 2019. They've only just been released, and this is the Dahlia stamp set. There are more stamps and stencils available on my website, and that information is at the bottom of the video. Okay, so here's what we're using. So the Dahlia stamp set, some self-adhesive gems, some black and white cardstock, and an A5 card or a C6 card, depending on which way you look at it. Anti-static pads. This is really important today. Wow embossing powder in... No, I'm not going to use the white. I'm not going to use the white. I was already planning a video and I was using the white. I'm actually going to use clear because I'm going to use the Versa Fine. So I'm going to swap that out. So I'm going to be using clear embossing powder alongside the VersaFine in Black Onyx. And Abandoned Coral Distress Oxide. Scissors, stamping mat, and a few other bits and pieces as I go along, but let's get started. So first things first, I've got some A5 cardstock here, and I'm just going to cut it down to match the mats that I've already created for this card. So this is the A5 card blank. I've already trimmed down a piece of black cardstock to fit on it nicely, and I'm just going to do the exact same with the white cardstock now. So I'm just going to trim this down so that it fits onto the black with a nice frame around the edge. Okay, so I'm just going to line that up just by eye, no specific measurements, because that way you can create the size frame that you want. Put a snip here, because that's where I'm going to cut it with the guillotine. Do the same on the other side. Leaving roughly the same sort of size frame all the way around, and trim these bits down. I figured I would leave one of the mat cutting and do it during the video because I tend to always have them ready, and I just wanted to show you how easy it is, because if you're really new you might not really understand matting and layering, and all it is to have a frame around the layer underneath. So, well, that didn't make good sense, did it? There we go. Let me show you instead. It's easy to show you. So all I've done is I've cut these pieces of card down to the fit, so that each one is decreasing in size, and it creates a nice frame for the layer above it. So this white is framed nicely by the black, and the black is framed nicely by the actual card itself. That's what matting and layering is, just in case you're new and you haven't really sort of discovered that yet. Okay, so let's get started. I'm just going to move those up out of the way. And the first thing we're going to do is take the Abandoned Coral Distress Oxide. And I'm going to create a small circle, or as circle-like as you can get it using a square. Grab my spritz, and I'm going to take the... just going to decide which way I want to do this now. So I want this bottom corner and this top corner to have the abandoned coral. So when I turn it over, I want what is now my top left-hand side, and I'm just going to pop that kind of just there. I'm just going to give it a bit of a smush round, obviously getting it all over my fingers, and lift that off. I think I want a little bit more on there, so I'm just going to go back in a little bit more here. Yep, okay, and then because that's had the water on it, I'm just going to wipe that down a little bit so it's dry, and do the same again for the other corner. So So this is now going to be the opposite corner. So not here, but this side here. Oh, almost got spritz. And just pop that in, give it a smush round again, lift it out. Maybe go back in a tiny little bit again, like we did with the other side. And that's fine. So I'm just going to quickly move that to the side, dry this off. And then dry the corners that I've just done. So you can wait for these to dry by themselves, but I don't think we want to sit here and just basically watch ink dry. I imagine it is as exciting as watching paint dry. Okay, almost done. You want to make sure that it's properly dry, because we're going to do some embossing, and embossing powder does stick to the oxide inks, which is great if that's the effect you're going for, but if it's not, it can be a bit frustrating because it can ruin your project. So I'm just going to curve this to try and straighten out where it's all been bent, having been made wet. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in my stamping pad and grab a piece of scrap card, and I'm going to show off my piece of scrap paper, not the scrap card, because if you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll know that I like to use and reuse and reuse and reuse until it's just a complete mess. Well, I'm now on a relatively new piece. It's like a treat for me. I know, I really need to get out more. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do, I can see that that's still quite wet there, so I'm just going to finish drying this one. So I really don't want any of the oxide ink to be wet. So just make sure that you've taken enough time to dry it properly, unlike I did just then. Okay, that hopefully is dry now. Okay, but to be doubly sure, anti-static pad. So I'm just going to dab this all over where I've popped the abandoned coral, because I don't want any of the embossing powder sticking to the oxide inks. I forgot what they were called there. I'm just going to dust this off, because when I tip my powder back in, I don't want any of those bits going in. And I'm going to grab the Dahlia stamp. Now this is a really nice size stamp. On the cover it doesn't look as big, but that's because I have to fit it on the front cover with all the information. But as you can see, it's actually a really nice size. Okay. So I'm going to grab my VersaFine and I'm going to ink this stamp up, making sure I get a nice coverage, because I really don't want to have to start this again because I missed a bit in the middle, which I did earlier. I'll show you in just a moment, and you'll also see then why I had the white embossing powder out, because I was going to do this in white. So let me show you. As you can see, this is the look we're going for here, and I missed a big bit in the middle. I hadn't put my stamping mat down, which is the problem there. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up, and I'm just going to put it so that it's sitting to the edge of all the ink that we've already applied, the oxide ink. Give it a good push, try not to miss any bits. Lovely. And I'm going to, I would normally do both sides at the same time, but I am very aware that my ink pad is a little bit older and I don't want the ink drying out before I have a chance to emboss it. I'm just going to get the embossing powder on now and dry this side quickly. So this is a really nice and simple card. It doesn't take too long to make. So if you've got a few birthdays coming up, and you just want to get a batch done, you know, you can make them look really different by just adding a different colour underneath. You could also use a masking technique and grab my one of my other sets that has got a few different leaves in, and you can put leaves around the back as well. So that is pretty much done. A nice shine on there. So I'm just going to tidy this up and stamp up the other side. I'm going to stamp it so that both flowers are in the right direction. As you can see, again, just applying the ink all over, making sure to get the bit in the middle. I'm going to flip my sheet back because this is the side I'm working on, and line it up so that it reaches just the end point of all the oxide ink. It's just kind of a cheating way if you don't really feel like colouring, because colouring can take a while, and if you want to get a lot done, or you haven't got a long time to make a card, you know, if you've been invited out somewhere and you haven't got a lot of time, turn that over. Oh, I did miss a little bit there slightly. Hopefully it won't show up too much with the embossing powder on it. And then emboss. I do love the way the clear works with the onyx black. But as you can see, using the anti-static pad means that I did not get any embossing powder where I didn't want it to be. Almost done. And there we go. Okay, so that is that way up. Now I know I've got a few splodges and everything on here, but that's fine because that's the nature of the oxide inks. And we're actually going to go around the edge as well. So it just looks, we're going to go with the word organic, which is kind of code for if that's not really how you wanted it to look, you can pretend it is. Okay, so I'm just going to bend that again because where it's been heat embossed, the card is bending ever so slightly. So what I'm going to do is grab the Abandoned Coral again, just pop a splodge on there. And I just kind of want to, I don't really want to get too much, I just want the very edge. If it comes in more, it comes in more, it's fine. But I'm going to try just to get the edge. Just taking it up and holding the blending tool really on its side almost, so that I'm only catching just around the edge. And all of a sudden, this bit down here is now a part of the card because the edges match. So just move that out of the way, tidy up again. Okay, and this is where we're at so far. So let me grab the black mat back in so you can see how it looks on the, now it's all been framed. And I'm going to pop those to one side, and I'm going to grab basically just an offcut of white cardstock. Grab my stamping mat again. Now, because this is an offcut, I definitely want to use my anti-static pad because there's probably going to be fingerprints all over it. And when I come to emboss it in a few minutes, I don't want to see all of that. Okay. And then we're going to grab the sentiment that comes in the set with the flower. And I'll read that to you in just a moment. Let me just ink it up first. So just line this up, decide sort of how big you want it to be, and then cut it down to size, which I'm going to do in just a moment. Nice firm press. And that says perfection comes in all shapes and sizes. I'm going to grab the clear embossing powder again, putting on far much more than I need, but it only holds on to what it needs. So the ink will hold the embossing powder, it won't hold loads and loads and loads. Trying to not burn my fingers and pull it into shot for you properly. Turn it round. There we go. See what I mean, how this is quite a simple, quick and easy card, because we are coming to the end, kind of, I guess. So I'm just going to grab a piece of scrap black, because I forgot to get that out already. I have a whole unit that just holds my offcuts of cardstock. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this down so that there is, I've tried to leave a similar gap from here to the end of the cardstock, and the same that side, and roughly the same this side as well. I can just see that I've missed the bottom part of that P. Let me just heat emboss that. There we go. Because it wasn't shiny, so I could see that I'd missed it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit off the top here, leaving roughly the same sort of gap as I have that side. Okay, so just roughly, just by eye. Yeah, that's about the right size. And then put it on the black and snip where I'm going to cut it. So keeping in mind the sort of size frame that we've already got around the card itself with the black, snip it down to about the same sort of size. Doesn't have to be perfect, and it really doesn't matter if it's not, because it would still look really nice. Find where I snipped. Okay. All right, so all I'm going to do now is start sticking all these layers together. So let me pull in the card parts and grab my glue. I'm just using a quick grab wet glue here. I can show you where the inspiration for this card came as well, because I did one similar to it, but I did it in without any colour, and it was a square card as well. I'll show you that at the end. Just pop the glue on the back here. A nice good coverage. Best part about the wet glue is that you have not a lot, but some wiggle room time, because it is a wet glue. So just press that down. I like to turn it over and press it from behind so that it gets a nice good coverage. I'm putting all my pressure onto the cardstock from the back, so if I have got mucky fingers and I haven't realised, I'm not smearing them all over the front of the card. And then while it's on its with the back facing up, Let's just get the glue on here. Okay. And making sure that the flowers are facing the right direction. Pop this on. Bit of press. As I said, I like to turn over. And we are almost there. I'm going to grab my foam pads and I'm going to pop the sentiment onto some foam pads so that it stands a little proud from the card itself. I need to get some new foam pads. I'm not happy with the ones I'm using. They are overly sticky, which I know you should want that when you're sticking things down, but they are just really, really annoyingly sticky. They stick to me just as much as the cardstock. Okay, shore those down. Oops. Let's get the backs off quickly. Or just get the backs off. It doesn't appear to be coming off very quick. There we go. And just to make sure that I have the chance to line it up, I like to pop some of the wet glue on top and not push it down straight away so that I've got some time to work out where I want it. So now, like with this, we could pop it pretty much anywhere. We can pop it down here, we can pop it up here, but I'm going to go for across the middle. So I'm just going to take a minute to try and make sure that I've got the right sort of gap either side and top and bottom so that it's very central. Look, it needs to come up just a tiny bit there, and that's that. Pop that down. So the only thing I'm going to do now is just add some of the self-adhesive gems, which I've moved to the side. Just using my tweezers to pick them up, and I'm just going to dot them around. Don't want loads, but just a few, and I will be working towards an odd number. So maybe, oops, maybe you there. And one kind of there, and then a few on the other side as well. This is obviously an optional extra, but I really like it. And one more. And there we go. That is this card all finished. Like I said, it's just a nice quick one. It works up really fast. You can make it look so different depending on what colour you use underneath the flowers themselves. And this is the inspiration card. So this one's just really clean and simple. No colour on it apart from I took one of my oxide pads just around the edge to soften the transition from the white into the black frames. I can't remember which one it is, but it's a really soft one, maybe an antique linen I think it might be. It's a really soft colour, but that was where this one came, or the idea for that one, where that one came from. But yeah, so this is the finished card. Hopefully you've liked this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. As I mentioned earlier, all my social media information will be underneath this video. So if you'd like to pop up along and follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you'd be most welcomed. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.